So Cleve, we're talking to you today just to get a feel for where we are in the elections. People are very curious about what the surveys say and how should we interpret them, especially since we're only 11 days away from May 9. So it's an exciting time. So my first question for you would be because I cover Isko Moreno, so our topic today will be mostly about his campaign and his campaign strategy. If one looks at the Pulse Asia surveys, Isko Moreno hasn't really improved his ratings, di ba? Parang he's usually in the 5%, 7, 8. Parang hindi masyadong malaki yung kanyang decrease or increase. So, why do you think this is so?
I think he stopped believing in his own campaign, and this can be seen in how he handled his own campaign, starting from the time no 2021 when people started floating his name as a potential candidate up until now. Parang we can trace how his campaign evolved and how unfortunately I think my personal assessment is that they stop believing in their own initial what could have been their campaign message. I think when Mayor Isko Moreno run and declared his presidential candidacy, they were trying to position him as the a centrist alternative candidate, right? Who doesn't want to be involved in parang partisan and political infightings, but would rather focus on pandemic recovery and delivering basic social services that our people needs. No? And at that time, I think that was a very parang there's lots of potential in there. I also, I remember writing for a foreign publication that I think it's very interesting that aside from the expected Marcos, and at that time we were also expecting Mayor Sara Duterte and VP Leni Robredo, that it would be very interesting to see how this kind of candidacy would play out, no? Whether there's enough constituency, no, for that kind of campaign message. But I think after, as soon as after he declared, he filed the COC, no, so parang late 2021, mga November, December, and then up until the early days of January 2022, we started seeing a shift in his tone and his campaign messaging. He wanted to position himself naman as the sort of like the next Duterte, right? I think we noticed that he's trying to court the Duterte voters. He was positioning himself as yung PRRD 2.0, right? Who could also do a build, um, who could also continue the build program of the administration. Uh, he wanted to get the support and endorsement of the president. No, he was also trying to portray himself as a credible opposition to the Liberal Party and what the traditional Dilawan kind of like camps, no, especially to VP Leni Robredo. And I think that really started the problem in his campaign, and that's why since then his numbers never pick up, because I think he's been shifting from this centrist, a bit of opposition, and then centrist, and then very close to the admin, and I think that's very confusing to the voters as well.
What would you say to people who would see a strategy in what he did? Because, for example, by presenting himself as a Duterte-like character, he could get the Duterte votes na hindi pa nakuha ni Marcos Jr. and Sara. While at the same time also by hitting the Lenny camp, the Lenny Robredo supporters, he might also be endearing himself exactly the same base. And then, syempre, we know that siya yung nagsimula ng 203 billion estate tax issue. So he was also trying to get a little bit of the non-Marcos, anti-Marcos people who may not necessarily be super kakampink, but could see like someone in him who could fight Marcos but not be a kind of Lenny. What would you say to that analysis?
Um, I think parang without consideration of the parang the political context, there's always the promise na a centrist candidate, if would be able to hit yung two different camps, two different polarized camps, no? Then he would be that candidate would be a really credible alternative, no? So I think they're banking on that. But I also think that the problem, if we start considering the political context, is that this is Philippine elections. I mean, halimbawa, if your messaging is iba naman, halimbawa, that means, di ba, parang Isko was using this kind of like narrative. Iba naman, wag naman mga Marcos, wag naman mga LP, wag naman si VP Lenny, no, wag naman yung mga Dilawan, for example. But we're talking about the Philippine elections, and political families have been winning in the elections for the past century. Meaning, you cannot really undo that, no, in just one election cycle. I think parang that messaging is really political, right? It the messaging is actually saying that the problem in this country is a political one, no, and that involves that families, the political families, the usual political elites are running the show. But I'm not sure if that there's really a big constituency to that, because our elections is dominated by political families. Halimbawa, yung mga leftist na parties, leftist candidacies, no, couldn't also break through precisely because yan din yung kanilang messaging na iba naman, and I'm not, parang walang demand among the voters for that kind of like campaign strategy. And I think doon medyo nahirapan yung Isko Moreno campaign, na I think na Isko Moreno campaign, no. I think if if it would have been sort of like a graceful centrist candidacy, that it's not political but a personality kind of like centrist candidacy, na I can work with. I think there was also a point that Isko Moreno was trying to say these things, na I could work with all of you, I can bring together different camp, na parang unfortunately, di ba, personality driven yung Philippine elections. And if the promise of being a centrist was packaged in that kind of language, na it's a personality centrism na gano'n, no, baka it would have been more effective than a political centrist candidacy.
How come that messaging worked with Duterte? Kasi in Duterte's case no 2016, siya naman yung candidate na parang down with the oligarchs. He was criticizing the Liberal Party. He was also kind of mouthing the same message na parang iba naman, 'di ba? Parang turi ng pagbabago. Medyo ganun din yung messaging niya, 'di ba? But how come with Duterte it captured a lot of people and not with Isko?
Yeah. I think yung Duterte phenomenon, ano din siya, parang, I mean, we have been trying to understand and try to explain why people were gravitated to him. But I think yan din yung example ng development in Philippine politics, na it could happen once and then it would never, like, parang if others would try to copy it, then poor copies na lang silang lahat. And just trying to, parang, there's no way you can out Duterte, and then parang even the daughter, halimbawa, is not Duterte herself, di ba? Parang she's not even packaging herself in a Duterte. Parang there's only one Rodrigo Duterte, and any other candidate who would try to do that would just appear to be inauthentic, no? O kaya luma na yan, no? So I think yon, parang with the when Isko also tried to when Isko tried to become yung Isko Duterte, that's how voters receive it, no. Kasi we have a long history naman of a different kind of, Duterte was a populist, but we also have a long history of the masa, nagmula sa masa, pro-poor kind of like populism. And there was a time that this was really a big part of this was central to the campaign message of Isko Moreno. And I actually thought that that was also something na um, that was also something that promising, considering that we've had a president who was elected on that message, di ba, sa era. Manny Villar for a time was also polling well until natalo siya, di ba? Parang major presidential candidate then was being driven by that kind of like campaign narrative, no? So baka yun nga, there's only one Duterte, and there are kind of like ano tawag dito, usual ingredients, usual campaign messages, no? It would have been siguro it would have been safer, no, for Isko to have stayed, no, within those yung mga usual campaign messages.
Okay. So for someone like Isko Moreno, you think it was the wrong move to bring up the 203 billion estate tax? Was it the wrong move to call Leni Robredo a pink bully and ask her to withdraw? I mean, why were these missteps necessarily? Kasi conventional wisdom would be na kung third place ka, i-attack mo nga yung second place and yung first place para you can get ahead. How come that wasn't effective as an attack or as criticism?
Well, kasi there's also parang if your campaign strategy, campaign message should be strategic. So if you attack Bongbong Marcos on something about corruption, tax issue, for example, then the next question is saan pupunta ang mga voters na to, and are you a credible alternative to the candidate you're attacking, no? And I'm not sure if Mayor Isko Moreno could also portray himself as someone who is a credible alternative if the framing of the issue is about halimbawa pera, no? Yung halimbawa because he has also money issues as well, right? There were also yung natawag dito yung excess ng campaign funds niya, no? Previously, no? So parang you would only attack other candidates in a way that would also promote your own candidacy. And with that, parang doon ako confused, no, whether doing that halimbawa with Marcos Jr. Would have been effective. I would have understood, I would have appreciated halimbawa if he attacked Marcos Jr. on his other accomplishments, halimbawa infrastructure, halimbawa social services.
He has, yeah.
Diba? Kasi Isko Moreno delivered on these areas, diba? Parang ilan bang napatayo mong pabahay para sa mahihirap, right? That would have highlighted his own strengths. Oo nga, no? Parang ganun. I mean, Robredo, halimbawa, yung attacks niya kay Robredo na yung una pa lang na sinabi niya na
fake dollar, ganun.
Ayan, oo, yung gano'n, di ba?
You abandoned the bird party.
Exactly. Parang sobrang laki ng pushback noon kasi nga anong babalik doon? Credible alternative ka ba to accuse someone na papalit-palit ng color? Tapos na-highlight, wala, I mean, if I will be honest, wala namang masyadong familiar doon sa parang whole political history ni Isko Moreno sa local sa Manila, 'di ba? Compared to the other national candidates, right? But it was highlighted, 'di ba? Now people started being aware of that particular issue, no? So yun. So I think really may temptation on the part of a third placer na to go against the first and the second placer, no? But it has to be strategic. And I think what we've also learned in 2016 and the past campaigns na if you're the third place, parang it's not wise to go after the second placer, right? Kasi nga the big problem is still the first placer, eh. Parang okay, you end up parang if ever makuha mo yung second place, you still end up with second place, no? Parang itong Mar Rojas Grace po nung 2016, di ba? Except that yun nga, si Isko is not really seeing an improvement in his numbers.
Let's go to what the Isko camp is saying about his chances winning the race. Because currently, they've been saying that hindi, even if third place siya, even if poor third place siya in Pulse Asia surveys, the other Pulse Asia surveys about second choice presidential candidates, siya palagi yung number one. And he was saying that this just means na kung two-way race, for example, hindi tumakbo si Lenny, diba? I mean, we see Lenny getting lots of support. Her crowds are really large crowds, and her numbers have gone up in the March survey. But sinasabi kasi nila na may ceiling yan. Parang it looks rosy now, but there will come a certain point where hindi na yan tataas. And in the end, mananalo pa rin si Marcos. Whereas kung si Isko daw yung, yung opposition candidate, he would have a bigger chance of getting other kinds of voters to his side and would have a higher ceiling than Lenny. What would you say to that? Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the same data, no? Yung top second choice, tapos yung level of people na parang hard no kay VP Lenny, no? So I agree naman na yung data na yun ay yun din yung nakikita ng mga other survey firms, including yung mga nagiging public na survey data. But I think yung interpretation is something na I disagree with, no? Yung interpretation ng Isko Moreno campaign on that, no? Because you parang from a numbers perspective, you are top second choice precisely because pangatlo ka eh, di ba? Parang if you think about it, kapag ka sino parang you are top second choice kasi nga yung dalawa ay sila yung parang first choice ng magkaibang camp, right? So you get the second choice votes, right? Even just for parang kung walang mga pangalan, parang we could expect that kind of like top second choice na number, no? Secondly, second choice is still second choice, parang wala pa rin, hindi naman we're not voting for second choices naman come election day, no? And if parang VP Lenny has a ceiling, no, we see naman in the recent weeks that she was able to actually shatter yung assumed ceiling ni VP Lenny, no? It's only a question now kung how fast siya makaka-catch up dun sa Marcos Jr. When if you compare it to the numbers of Mayor Isko, hindi na siya nakaalis dun sa current numbers niya, no, compared to parang yung imagined potential of the Isko Moreno candidacy. We really have yet to see that happening, no? There was a time na I think among political observers, and that includes me, that I was also considering whether Mayor Isko Moreno as an opposition candidate could actually be more effective, no? Kasi nga wala siyang baggage nung Dilawan baggage, wala siyang yung parang mga fake news and disinformation against Robredo, no? But the problem is that since then na yung nakikita siyang potential opposition candidate, until now the problem is that we haven't really seen him really attempt to portray his candidacy as in opposition to the Marcos Jr. campaign. Medyo late na yun eh. But in the beginning, no, medyo mas harsh pa siya kay VP Lenny than Marcos Jr., no? And syempre magiging credible ka lang na for those who are anti-Marcos, you can only be a credible anti-Marcos if you definitely say that you are anti-Marcos, no? So yun. So it's parang I'm skeptical, no, if there's really truth in what they claim na they would have been the better candidate, no, against kay Marcos Jr. But if I were to parang consider that, yung isang iniisip ko is that um, an election race between Marcos Jr. and Moreno would definitely change yung parang tone ng election and what the voters' considerations are, no? Kung siya yung kalaban ni Marcos, no, it would probably be not about Marcos and Aquino and Marcialo and the post-EDSA governments, no? It would probably be parang they would probably be fighting for the presidency in different landscape, in different terms, no? It could probably be about sinong better na makakapag-continue ng polisiya at programa ni Duterte, sino makakapag-deliver ng better projects on the ground, etc., etc. That I could imagine as a possibility. But and lastly on this question, but the problem is that since pre-October, no, they've been really parang they've been really concerned doon, not concerned, they've been really fixated doon sa pag-set up ng election race in parang three-way fight ba to, four-way fight ba to, no? And parang I know this, I've heard from how they try to court funders, no, na they were really setting up na VP Lenny wouldn't run, Mayor Sara wouldn't run, no, ito yung magiging laban, no, etc. And using those numbers to actually say that they have a viable campaign, no. And I think what happened is that what ended up as kung ano yung magiging landscape is that yung kanilang worst case scenario yung nangyari, no. Tumakbo yung lahat ng mga kandidato that in their simulation they thought wouldn't run and that they would have a better fighting chance.
Going to kasi you're saying no na parang if it was just magiging different na yung usapan, yung landscape if it had been a Moreno Marcos fight. So this all really goes back to the unity talks in 2021 that failed, right? Kasi yun sana yung point to find like a single candidate to rally around, 'di ba? Para better chances. So what do you think happened there? Like what would be your assessment in it? What would have been the ideal scenario, ideal configuration of candidates that might have been given a better chance to opposition to beat a Marcos?
Yeah, I think if we can go back in time, it would have been really ideal for Mayor Isko and VP Lenny to go to run together, no, as a tandem, no. VP Lenny as president, Mayor Isko as vice, no. Pero kahit nga pagbalik na rin nila, I would still consider that that's a stronger tandem than what we have right now, no. So para syempre may question na hindi ba strong yung current tandem ni VP Lenny and Senator Kiko. I think it would have been stronger kung you have someone Isko as a vice, no, would contribute a little bit more votes, no, to VP Lenny than Sen Kiko kasi mas fresh, mas may constituency si Mayor Isko. On the other hand, si Mayor Isko din would have benefited from the support of VP Lenny that she's enjoying right now, no. In mga internal surveys ng WR numero, one of the things na people would usually say is that masyado pang maaga, masyado pang bata siya, nagmamadali siya, no. And that would have been you would have avoided, no, that kind of like concerns among the voters, no. Nag-partner siya with someone na seen as a veteran, no, nag-VP na, no, etc. Di ba? Pwedeng very clear na he's coming as mayor and then the next logical step is to try the vice presidency, no, than jump to the presidency agad, no. Again, he's trying to do the 30th thing, but si President Duterte naman, napakatagal na naging mayor ng Davao and other positions in Davao City, no, before he ran for the presidency. And Isko, just unang term pa lang niya as a mayor of Manila. So it would have been really promising kung nagkaroon sila ng unity talks, no, from what I've heard. It also involved Senator Manny Pacquiao, no, na he was willing to forgo his presidential candidacy if this unity ticket will happen, no. So you'll see na yung kanilang simulation na at konti lang yung kalaban, this will be a two-way, a three-way race, no, would have easily happened if they have joined this unity ticket.
Let's go to the joint Easter Sunday press conference. Meron bang strategic value yung nangyaring press con in any way to the Isko campaign, do you think?
I think there is a strategic value, but not for his own campaign, no? And that's dito ako I find it personally confusing, no? So parang on so many levels, the press con was was confusing. Una, they were there to say that there was, they will continue their candidacies. Tapos pare-para silang presidente. So who among them should the people vote, right? So wala namang declaration who these different the different presidential candidates should actually unite behind with, no? So tapos he also attacked, no, Vice President Lenny Robredo, no, and dedicated, no, yun nga, parang parang naging harsh and talagang dedicate siya ng time to say that the campaign of VP Lenny is not as viable, no, as his, no. So parang yung strategic value, I think, is really for the front runner than for himself, because I'm not sure if kasi if the intention is to attract votes from VP Lenny, I don't think he'll be able to do that by saying that that's not a viable campaign, right? Kung in case nakikita niya, VP Lenny is, drawing parang super huge crowds, right? And that only means that these people are voters, they are inspired, no? They want her to win, right? And by attacking that particular candidate, no, I'm not sure if anong plan paano makuha yung mga voters na yun. I think it's very I think they know, kasi I think that's what they've been trying to do din naman, halimbawa kay Marcos Jr. and kay Duterte at the beginning of their campaign, right? They wanted to get the voters, so voters of Marcos Jr. and Duterte, so they knew nung early phase ng campaign na they couldn't attack these two personalities directly, right? Medyo subtle lang, indirect lang, no? But with VP, hindi, very direct. So parang I think it's, for me, as an outsider reading it, parang they know that they really don't want to get those votes, right? So what they want to get are the votes of Marcos Jr., votes of Duterte supporters, no, to place themselves as the anti-Dilawan, anti-LP, credible anti-LP candidate. But the problem is, he didn't really offer reasons why Marcos Jr. isn't the best, diba, parang candidate for these voters. So yun, so that's kaya parang I highly doubt the strategic value of that press con for himself, right?
Okay. Last question, Cleve. At this point, 11 days na lang, is there anything the Isko Moreno camp can do to improve his chances? What would you tell their campaign team?
I think they have to go back to the original motivation and the initial message and what drove people to consider Isko Moreno as a presidential candidate. It was his, di ba, yung kahit nga yung bilis kilos, di ba, they've already, I think, parang medyo abandoned na din yung bilis kilos na messaging. But I think that that's why in the first place people considered him, because he was talking about the slow pandemic response of the government. It was ineffective, and he showed that he could do it better. And at that time, it was on the top of people's mind that we need someone who could deliver in times of crisis, just like, you know, this particular pandemic. If parang ano to, they have to believe that that was a viable that is no a viable campaign message. Parang I don't know what happened throughout throughout the entire campaign period, but somehow naging two joints, you know, naging peace of mind. Di ba, parang di ba, so medyo lumayo dun sa initial na what I thought was a very promising campaign, no, na Isko is a hard worker. He is above the parang the problem of partisan, toxic kind of like politics, no. I think in other places, you know, in other countries, they've also tried this messaging for centrist candidates, no. Halimbawa si Macron when he first ran, no, that was his attempt, no, na I'm neither left nor right, no. What I am is a worker. I do my best to deliver services and programs to the people, and that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And somehow I think, no, I think somehow na I know na others would disagree with me na that's okay, na parang that would have na he could have parang Mayor Isko Moreno could have chosen to be a non-political candidate, no. I think others would say that's problematic given the landscape, Duterte and Marcos Jr., no. But sometimes, you know, if the environment is too toxic and partisan and polarized, you need sometimes a boring candidate who will just really yung nga, yung parang working candidate, no. And kaya I initially thought that was a viable campaign, no. Boring na, you know, just focus on the problems, just focus on the issues, no. Wouldn't really be involved in mga partisan in fine things. But in the process, he became the most political of all the candidates. He became the one with yung pinakamaanghang na sinasabi sa mga kalaban niyang kandidato. So he planned a campaign what he planned for his own campaign, yung reverse no, it was the complete opposite of how he executed it. Then, sayang.
Pahabol, since na-mention mo na rin, no, yung peace of mind slogan niya, kasi he recently released an ad na yun na yung messaging niya. In his speeches now, peace of mind yung sinasabi niya. Precisely what you're saying, na parang be boring, parang be the salve to people's parang uyam dun sa toxic politics. But do you think it's working at this point? Is it too late, or kaya pa ba namang gamitin yung messaging na yun?
Yeah, parang medyo too late na, no, kasi nakaikot na siya, and sa pag-ikot niya, iba't ibang campaign messages na yung kanyang nagamit, no. Yun, and yun nga, because of what he said and what he did during the campaign, no, na he became the most political, the sort of like medyo mas toxic. Pagka, you know, if people would hear na, oh, Isko Moreno's advice is that choose me because you know, just for peace of mind, tama na yung toxic. Parang it doesn't suit him well na, it's not authentic na, because na the Easter joint press con pa lang, di ba? Parang what was that? That was a display of really that was really politics, di ba? Parang, so if your message now is going back to the roots of your campaign na I'm not a politician, I'm a worker, I'm not here for politics, peace of mind, no, medyo hindi na magma-match, no. It's he's no longer a credible messenger of that kind of particular message.
Okay, thank you so much, Cleve. That was so enlightening, and I'm sure useful for a lot of people now observing the elections and what could happen on election day. So thank you so much for joining us, Cleve.